There is nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Not even armies. These are the words of Victor Hugo, a great philosopher. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That all depends from where you could be watching me from in the world. I'm Akwago, the guy on the street with a burden in his heart for motherland Africa. I know the current happenings around have left a lot of eyebrows, awakened, and people are a little bit shocked with what is happening, especially with the recent visit of the French president to Cameroon. You know, after observing his speech, you listen to the way he talked, his aspirations and why the war of Ukraine persists and all that. It is revealing that something is happening, whether we like it or not. Something is happening. Indeed, the time has come for an idea that nothing can stop, and that is African liberation and eventual unity. You see, why Macron was in Cameroon about 3 days ago, the Russian foreign affairs minister was in Uganda trying to, war the Ugandan country to stand strong with Russia. What is that telling you us? It is just telling us that France is trembling because she is losing Africa. And she chose to come to Cameroon because Cameroon is a chief nation of the CEMAC zone. Don't forget that the Central African Republic is almost gone just for the currency that is still keeping them aside. And you know what their president did about the cryptocurrency, which was eventually bound in this zone for them not to actually use that tool and gravitate away from this Western hegemony over African people. As these things are going on simultaneously, you realize that the media is so full of how people are discussing on why Macron had to come to Cameroon. Why people are discussing on why he came to Cameroon. Macron on his own is struggling to let us know that, in fact, he's insisting that we should know that Ukraine is the victim while Russia is the offender. But you and I know what the USA wants in this world, okay, right? You know how manipulative this Western hegemony after especially African autonomy has been, and for how long they want to maintain that position. Now, the point is, you have to understand, you have to know that the handwriting is so clear on the wall that the time for African liberation and unity has come. And there's no army in the world that can stop that. That is why there's a lot of kind of confusion in the air. They are traveling to Africa to come and seek support from us because they have realized that there is kind of awakening in the spiritual realm. There is a consciousness already among the black children, and they are going towards what would naturally gravitate them to take their first position, as they should, in the affairs of the world. Why all these things are happening? Just of recent, about 2 or 3 days ago, the youth of the DRC Congo decided to go to the UN peacekeeping office in Congo and destroyed a lot of things there and asked them to pack and leave their country. Don't forget that when Patrice Lumumba was being murdered, those peace forces were there. The UN peace forces were there, but he was killed. The prime minister of a sovereign country was killed. They have been there for over 59 or 60 years or so, but the guns have not ceased sounding in the DRC Congo. These youths had to rise up and try to send these people away out of their land, because their only mission there is to loot the natural resources on an industrial scale. They have had enough. And somehow I'm so elated that the spirit is already amongst African youths. Like, everybody is not okay, right? There's something going wrong somewhere, and it has to stop. And that thing is Western hegemony. Western hegemony that is branded in neocolonialism and imperialism. You wonder why there are price hikes everywhere, especially in a country like Cameroon? Guy, you go to the market now, the way things are expensive is something that we can't really explain. I'm not talking about things that are imported. I'm talking about things, especially agricultural products that are being cultivated here in Cameroon. Go to the market, you want to buy plantains, you want to buy corn, you see how much they'll price you those things. But why the sudden inflation? It is simple. Your currency, the franc CFA, that is being controlled from Paris, has been devalued. Consequently, there must be price hikes. There must be an inflation. You see, what most people, especially in these French so-called former colony, because they are not formal, they are still French colonies. That is the truth. Do not understand is that during the so-called post-independence era, before France left Africa, she drafted something she called the Colonial Pact. It means that she had to control your money. That means that she's controlling your economy. She has to control your curriculum. It means that she decides what you teach your children. She has to control your army, even though that one was not so clear the way they put it. Now, if somebody controls especially your money, it means that you don't have the right to use the money the way you deem fit for you, because you don't have the power over that money. When African countries, especially those that are using the franc CFA, sell their products at the world market, just 15% of that money is given to them, and about 85% is sent into the so-called French treasury, because France at that time considered that they were not mature enough to take care of their whole money, so they are keeping that money for the future. Should that economy need some more money, they only come to borrow up to 20%. They are now borrowing their own money. And that is why you see that they control everything, and there is a lot of inflation around today, because they decide what to do with that money. Yet the French president will come to Cameroon and start telling the Cameroonian youths that he admires them. Come on, what kind of hypocrisy is that? What does he admire us for? Guy, look it well. Are we the information engineers from China or India that are developing America? What do we really have to offer? All this manipulation is to let us think that France is some kind of friend to Africa, whereas the truth is that France is just a parasite whose time for dislodgement has come. We need to flush her out of the systems of Africa. And that is why I so much love what the DRC youths have done to the UN headquarters in Kinshasa. The questions keeps coming back to you. The whole world, especially the East, and I'm talking about Russia, I'm talking about China, I'm talking about India, are so much interested in Africa. When will you, African children, decide to come together, liberate this continent, and finally unite it? You have all the power. The truth is that you have the power, but the problem is that you are not conscious enough of the kind of power you have. After the Montfortbé summit last year in France, it is their president, with some African youth, is their president now coming towards Africa to solicit some kind of support, because they know that the bulk of the African so-called states have gravitated towards Russia. It means that the prophecy of De Gaulle is gradually coming to fruition. Yeah. Around the early 50s, De Gaulle prophesied that in the 21st century, France was going to lose Africa. And if care is not taken, France will slide to a third world country because they exploit Africa. I still go back to ask the questions why there are all these military bases in Africa, from the USA, from France, from this one and that one, yet wars have not ended in Africa. Are they there to protect you? Look at the Sahel region. They are not there to protect you. They are there simply for the fact that should there be any uprising that people want them out of our land, their army will be immediately available to quench anything that could work against them. Now, the truth is that we have all it takes. I'm talking to the African